All right, welcome to the Town of Southborough meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, Thursday, November 4th, 2021. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members or of the public will be permitted. So with that said, thanks everyone for joining. We do have a quorum. It's 7:03. So to kick things off, call the meeting to order. Like I said, a little shuffle of the items on the agenda in terms of the project updates. The town clerk's going to come a little bit later because he has a historian or records person who's been helping that maybe come on the call to explain some of the things they're finding. So that's not till 7:30ish. So recreation, I think, Jen, are you going to talk to that one?
Yeah, I'm representing that tonight. Yep.
Do you want to go forward with that one now?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. So we had a couple things on. So the first one is the update around the Colander project. So that went out to bid and came back in. The bid was awarded, I believe, Tuesday by BOS. And it came in 150K lower than we expected. So yeah, huge. So the bid came in around 78,000 to fix the drainage and bring the field back at Colander. So the bid was awarded to the same company that did DePetrie, and DePetrie is like, if you've been out in that field, it looks really nice. They did a really good job there. So yeah, so we're excited about that. And then, so the other update we had was to talk about the two lighting projects. And I actually have a spreadsheet that I emailed you, but I'm going to walk you guys through because both of those projects were over. And want to talk through, like, explain why they're over, what they're over. And let's see, are you seeing my screen or not?
Yes.
Yep.
Are you seeing an Excel file or not?
No, Word document.
Okay, that's for later. Now you see an Excel file?
Yes.
Okay, I will make this a little bit bigger for you. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I can't.
Okay. Better? All right, so yeah, so for our, let's see, the Mooney lighting project, we are over budget by about $2,500, just under $2,500. And for the Richardson tennis court lighting, we are over budget by $21,400. So I can also kind of walk you through so I guess the biggest takeaway is these were all estimated and funded in 2017. And then the work was done this year. So there's a big difference in the costs and inflation. And the other challenge that we ran into with both these projects is that the initial design, we did not realize that we'd have to have some new poles run. And there's a lot more detail in here from Tim and Karen. But basically, so the initial estimate was based on like a single pole installation and connection. And we were not aware, it was not in the initial scope that we were responsible for adding additional poles to handle like the higher wattage that was coming across. So that is the reason why both these projects were over. The reason why Richardson is over more than Mooney is that Richardson, we actually had to run multiple poles to get down into the field, versus Mooney, because it's alongside the road there, it was only one pole. So we wanted to talk and figure out, like, what does this mean? How does this work with CPC? Is there any wiggle room in these funding? Do we have to find these funds elsewhere to cover the cost of these lighting projects to finish them? Or to finish
So is
paying
that,
for-
is that cutting, that's using the contingency and everything? You're still over by that much?
So I believe so. This is the approved amount, was the 220, 700 and 153.
Okay.
So I did not have time to go back and look and see if I could find the original amounts, but I'm assuming they are, since this is what it says, approved meeting article.
Okay. Well, I think, first of all, I want to see if there's any other questions. You did a great job of explaining why it's over. It makes sense. And then, any of the other CPC members have questions?
Not a question, but I think we gotta know, before we decide what to do, I think we gotta know to what, how accurate that number is by making sure that it's already taken into account the contingency funds. Is that fair?
Yeah, I believe, was this in our, I was just wondering if the actual amounts were in our meeting minutes from last time when we talked about this.
On the CPC?
Yeah, I remember what early October meeting, we discussed all the open accounts and these were both open. I was just wondering if the dollar amount was actually in that list.
Can I jump in? It's
Yes.
ready. I don't think I dug into that level because we hadn't done the research on all the accounts. But this afternoon, I think I did send out before we had the MOU, we sent project proponents an email, a letter. And I believe, I only thought you were talking about Richardson for some reason. And that did everyone get that letter?
Oh, yes, yeah. That's where.
It
I can-
lists that there was $20,000 in Richardson and contingency that the CPC would need to vote to approve to spend. So if you're,
133, 43. Okay, so these numbers already, the contingencies are in them, in this total here.
so to Mark's answer, that would be 41,423.70 over. I don't know. I'd have to look up the
Yep.
Mooney. But you have the ability to just vote the 20,000 of the contingency.
And Jen, help remind me, how far
Yep.
along are we in these projects already?
They're basically done. So Richardson, they were out on site again this week after they were MIA for several weeks. We were threatening legal action if they didn't show up, and then they showed up. So we're actively working this week. I haven't heard if it's completely done yet or not.
Yeah. Okay. So from my experience in the past, I haven't, not that I'm the authority on this, but I haven't seen one where we've been this much over, or
Yep.
these two. So I personally, I would think we'd have to go back to town meeting and say, hey, do we want to fund this? The extra piece, which, that it could happen. We have the capability, at least with the contingency funds, to approve that, but beyond what got approved at town meeting, we don't have the authority to then migrate over another 40-some thousand dollars to finish the two. So, I mean, but we could, I mean, unless Freddie sees differently, and we can't, swap from one project to another either, because the funds are tied specifically to one, each project. So I think the options are, and before we set that in stone too, I'd be, Freddie, if we can confirm that with the coalition, just to make sure we're dotting all our i's and crossing all the t's, so that we don't get questioned by the town, right? And then the other option is if there's revolving funds with the town or how they want to do it. But otherwise, we're talking, it wouldn't be until next town meeting that we could possibly put this out there and ask for the town to pay for it. So the town's gonna have to pay for it probably to begin
Mhm.
with. That's my 2 cents. Ben? You got any questions, or do you
No, I'm nothing to
disagree
add
with
to
what I
that.
said?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it would have to go to town meeting. I think also Freddie would probably know this a little better, but I think we run into the difficulty if the town pays it and then recreation comes to seek reimbursement for that after the fact. I don't know that we're able to even fund it that way.
Yeah,
Curious to hear Freddie's thought on that. I seem to recall that's the case though.
yeah.
Gotcha. So like if we were to take this to town meeting to ask them to fund like the Richardson one, the extra 20, yeah, like somebody waiting 9 months to get their bill paid, like that probably won't fly. So someone's gonna have to pay it in the interim. So you're saying if someone covered that cost in the interim, then CPC couldn't backfund it?
I think it would not be CPA eligible. Freddie, am I correct on that? I don't want to.
Well, I agree with Andrew that I should check with the coalition. This
Okay.
is a little bit unique because the project was approved, but there is a what's the term? Supplementary funding. You can't fund a project that's already been paid with CPA money.
There's no creative way to use administrative funds for any of this.
Not,
I
you don't have that much money in your account. And it's not an admin cost, but I will check with that to see if it could help. But
Yeah,
Or
one of the
like, or
right off the-
even part of it, like admin. So I do know so for Mooney, this $7,000 that was paid, it was actually paid back in 2017. To be quite frank, I didn't even know that was paid out. So we thought we were on budget for this, and this one snuck up on us. So this was like an original design that was done for Mooney that did not pass muster with the planning board and got thrown out. And then basically we hired Traverse to come back and do the right plan to get this project done. So this is like, we incurred the cost of design work twice on this project. Yeah, and like this one here is another design work too. So I didn't know if like design work qualifies as admin funds, if there's anything there that we could do.
so again, I
Well-
think talking to the coalition to be as creative as possible as the CPC wishes me to, to do. I'll find out the information. It's a little bit different because like if you had a project that you created and funded, you can't come to CPA and ask us to fund it, to reimburse you, right? So that's definitely a no. This here is a little bit different where you have had an overage. So I don't know what
Okay.
exactly could be done as far as how you could fund that. But in this case, we've already paid those bills. So it becomes, it's just complicated, but I'm not saying no, that there might not be a solution. And also if you had someone else pay it, could town meeting vote to pay it again? I'm thinking we're in very murky water but I think that's up to the coalition to give us better advice.
Yeah,
Jen, who exactly is owed this money? Or is it a bunch of?
So let's see.
well, hold on, in the interest of time, I hate to do this, Jen, but I do see
Okay.
Michael's on. And I
Okay.
know he has a hard stop at 7:30. So if you guys are okay, can we, I want to come back to it, but
Alright,
if we can,
sure.
we can
Good call.
hear from Michael, that would be great.
Good call.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curious.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Michael.
Hello, yes, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that I'm not muted. Okay, so I'm here to give you a progress report. Sorry, I'm a little punchy because we've been going at it for 2 hours at the Historical Commission. So there's 2 projects outstanding. The first has not started, and that is the small museum project for $9,000 and some dollars. I spoke to Lynn Spencer today, who's the head architect on this. They've had some COVID staffing delays, so they didn't get started as soon as possible. I asked her if we could start and finish this by the end of the year, because they want to do some paint sampling and other kind of things, that need to be done in decent weather. She said it shouldn't be a problem. We are the top of the list. So I hope to get this up and done before the 31st of December. I'm not going to be held to that, obviously, because, I'm not doing it, but I'm pressing to do it because we really want the information, especially in terms of the paint colors and structural things, to start looking around for what we're going to need for that building. Because next fiscal year looks very tight.
And that's the project that just was approved at the last town meeting.
Yeah, that's the 2020, are we? Yeah.
Yeah, the flag school work.
Yep.
For the exterior. Okay.
Yep. So that's that. 2018 is the other one, I believe. Is it
The
18 or
Civil
19?
War flag and document.
Yeah, the Civil War flag in the document. So you guys know the flag is done. That portion of it is done and it is hanging up in the museum. We sent a memorandum of understanding or a letter that was required in this to Mark Purple. He bounced it back. Lisa Braccio, I sent you that communication. They want it directed to the Board of Selectmen. Lisa Braccio instructed town council to draft it. It hasn't been drafted yet. I've asked a couple of times for it. Maybe you guys can ask her as well. But that would complete out that portion of it. As for the rest, we're still working away. We received a major donation when Paul Doucette died, and by major, I mean thousands and thousands of items. So as we were starting to get to the end of the process, we started to be at the beginning. Frankly, I think the work is going to outlive the grant by a considerable amount of money, but we don't intend to come back for any funding at this point because we have now, thanks to the Southborough tax program, senior tax program, a couple of wonderful volunteers or paid volunteers that are handling some of the extra workload. So we should be all set and hope to have this entire thing finished and done by the end of this fiscal year. Ms. Fiore, who's been working for us as our assessor, is working steadily. I will honestly say, and I spoke to Andrew about this, part of the reason this has taken so long is that the payment process through the town has become so extended at points that she can't really afford to work for us exclusively. She's been looking at 60 to 90-day delays in getting a check. And she, doesn't have a lot of huge source of income. She's a working girl. So if anything can be done on that to make that a little more regular or at least standardized so that she knows it's going to take X amount of time, that would be great, because I think that would speed up the process as well.
Yeah. And Michael and I talked about that a little bit yesterday, and I told him I would look into it with the town to see what's holding that delay up as we get each invoice. I think the last one we just got, Freddie, I think it was a week ago. I know that one's already been processed, so I want to see how long it takes for that to come through. And we just got that from Kate.
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't know if that was for her or for someone else, but just want to see what the time frame is for that to get processed.
Yeah, I think we're good on all things. I have there's a little bit of funds left in the first part of this for some work for some archival materials, which we've purchased. The Doucette edition, which is really quite amazing. He was a huge collector of Deerfoot Farms memorabilia, and also something of an unofficial town historian. So he just was an crazily involved collector. And so when he died year before last, his widow gave us his entire collection.
Well, Michael, was that in the original scope for any of the projects?
Well, I mean, the scope for the projects was simply to get all the material that is sitting around in boxes in the basement into some sort of housing. So as we were somewhat moving down the line of getting this, thing taken care of the original moving out, we got a whole bunch of additional material dumped on us. So yes, I mean, the idea was that we shouldn't have huge amounts of precious materials sitting in cardboard boxes, with documents and bottles and wrappers and God only knows what else all thrown together, because that's how we have this stuff, both still from the move and from this edition.
So, and Michael, I understand that, and it's great that you're getting additional artifacts and history of the town. But I think if I look at it, and I always try to wear a hat of, someone in town that might not be a big advocate of CPC or preservation or anything. If someone tried to look at the actual warrant article, what got approved, I don't think the scope of that new work would fit into what the funding was originally given to you or given to the society for. Does that make sense?
I do, but I'd look at the language because I think it actually does. I mean, it talks about I don't have it in front of me, but it talks about processing materials in our collections. So materials in our collections are materials in our collections, no matter when they come from. And quite frankly, this is some very valuable material. But regardless, it doesn't really matter, because even without the Paul Doucette work, we would still not have finished the work in front of us within this level of funding. I mean, it is just immense. I mean, we started with an estimate of, I don't know, 8,000 objects and pieces of paper, and I think we're well past 16 or 17,000. It's just a huge amount of stuff. 50 or 60 years of accumulated donations from people. So, guys, just have faith. We're almost done here.
I get it. I think the message, though, from the society and from the CPC needs to be consistent to the rest of the town, because I think, Michael, in the future there will be additional projects that will probably come forth, and I think the CPC has been a great supporter overall of the historical preservation in the town, and I think it would be great to be able to distinguish between what we did before, before that big collection was donated, this is what we were working on, and this is everything we've documented and everything, so that if, who knows, until you get through all that Doucette artifacts, whether you find that, there's another flag in there or something, and then, there is going to be funding.
Most
But
of
I think
that stuff has not even been tackled yet. I mean, that's what
right. But I'm just saying that's what I'm trying to say, is that I think it'd be best for both the society and the CPC if we keep the original project focused on what you already were working on, and then if the new piece, the Doucette piece, that becomes either you have the seniors working on it or whatnot, but the message should be that the funds that we originally applied back in 2019 were with the artifacts that you currently had at the time, unless someone else feels differently from the CPC. I think that's the messaging that should go back to the town in case you do need additional funds for the new collection.
Well, we don't intend to apply for additional funds for the new collection, because we intend to allow, one of the things that has come along now that I have assumed the chairmanship, God only knows how long that'll be though, of the Historical Commission, is that we were able to utilize the tax position, the tax working for the seniors, which as a society we weren't able to utilize before. So that has made really all the difference in getting this work move forward, and the amount of material. We still have boxes down there from the original move. Boxes and boxes of stuff. We haven't really even tackled the objects along. Most of this was paper. And think about it. Every single piece has to be assessed. Is this valuable? Is this a duplicate? Does it pertain? It's a thousand tons of work. But we're almost done, guys. Really.
Okay. Well, one other question. I know you only got a couple more minutes. So the historical town artifacts from the restoration from 2017, that project's complete? There was one that we had back in 2017.
Well, the funding is exhausted. That's certainly
Okay.
true.
All
I
right,
mean,
so I just want to be able to, we can close that one out. Okay,
yeah, I mean, there's no money clunking around there, is there?
ready? You know if there's any funds still left in that one?
Well, I mean, my presumption, so I've asked a couple, the problem is that there's like, various accounts. And when I ask at the town accounting office, I don't get a real straight answer about what account, are which. Because there was something with like $1,000 in it, and then there was something like with $28,000. That presumably is the 2019.
Can I jump in here?
Please.
So, hi, Michael.
Hi.
Questions about the funds in the account should not be going to the townhouse. They should be coming to the chair of the CPC. That's whose project it is and can tell you what's going on. There is 1,300-ish in the 2017, and you hadn't finished that. We were still paying that out of that as far as June of 2021. And then we got an invoice for 3,000, which wouldn't cover it. And that was in, I think it was June of 2021, which was the first time you tapped into the 2019 project funding. So yes, there's 1,300 left in that account.
Okay, well, so these projects were contiguous in the sense that they were both, they started with the same idea, which was all of this processing of this material after the flood. So I would have presumed that the first one would have been exhausted before the second one was tapped. But
Okay.
it doesn't.
So then, all right. That just helps with our accounting. So the next bill that comes in, we're gonna close out the rest of the 2017 because it's still
Yes,
going
please.
to everything in there. Then we start, or use up the rest of the 2019. And then the one other question I had was on the Civil War flag. Is there any plaque or anything on the frame indicating that it was help funded by the CPC to restore the flag?
No, but there could be on the wall. The frame is itself is, minuscule. Just, you can't see on here, but I can't get in front of the camera. It's tiny. It's just a minuscule, like half-inch kind of glass thing that goes around all of it. But I mean, we can put a plaque up. We haven't actually put the plaque to describe what it is yet. So
Okay.
I'm happy to put, funded by the CPC, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just send me some language. I'll make sure it's on the thing.
All right. Sorry, everyone, I took up most of the time. I know Michael's got to go. Anyone else have questions?
I think you covered it.
Great.
So, Michael, first of all, thank you first of all, for everything that you are doing there. I know it's a lot of thankless work. I appreciate
Not
you
always,
coming in.
not always thankless, but sometimes a little harder than it should be. If you ever see a cloud of smoke coming up from the museum, I've been fried by the Board of Selectmen, and that I'll be dead. So that'll be the end of the story.
But and I appreciate you coming in. I know in the end it was short notice I gave you or asked you to come, and I appreciate you after town meeting this week. I think you were at a selectmen's meeting yesterday.
Oh yeah, 5 hours, and they were still going strong at 11 o'clock when I got off.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. It was, they still had executive session with the fire chief, and they weren't even out of their consent agenda.
Hey, remember you were this close to being one of them. So you almost signed up for that.
Yeah, well, I know, 11 votes. I wonder if Andrew's enjoying his time, because I'll tell you, he looked pretty tired last night, and I was able to go to bed. So, be careful what you wish for, because it could go through. Anyway, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
All right, so, sorry, Jim Haggerty?
Oh, he's on. Okay.
Yep.
Is that okay, Jen? I don't want to.
I'm fine. I'm here all night, right? I'm
Okay,
fine with it.
I just want to make sure. I don't want you to feel like I'm bumping you down the road.
No, not a problem.
So once you bring Jim in, there might be someone else he wants to bring on too.
Okay, it's trying to move. Yep. Oh no, the other person left, so.
Hello,
Hey, Jim,
how are you?
good and you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Oh, you're still
I
in the
apologize
office.
for the clear off my bald head. There's nothing I can do about that right now.
Now, was there someone else you wanted to bring on too? There's no one else
Yeah,
in the.
unfortunately, he's stuck in traffic. I checked with him and he won't be able to make it.
Okay, all right. So Jim, let's see. Anne and Jen, have you heard of the projects? Are you familiar with the projects that the town clerk has been working on? I mean, we originally, I don't know if Jim, you've started them all, or I think Paul Berry did originally.
He did, yeah, they did.
There have been
Did you-
about, sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead.
There have been a number of projects we've done through over the, I'd say, I think over the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Going through the books, the town records that the town clerk is responsible for maintaining. A lot of them go back, over 200 years, that were handwritten in ink, that are, the books were deteriorating. You see that big black door behind over Jim's right shoulder that
Mhm.
goes to the basement that originally we paid to help put a dehumidifier down there to make it so that the books wouldn't deteriorate as quickly. Then a lot of them got rehabbed, they got rebound. So, and it's been a process, as I think Paul started off, he's like, look, these are the worst ones I've got. I want to go through these. And then we knew it would be a continuing process as we went through. And I think we're on at least the 5th iteration of this, if my memory serves me correctly. So,
I'm just gonna close this door real quick. The custodian's here.
yeah. So Jim, or the town clerk, as the last project was to go through more of the records in the basement and preserve them. Some of them were books, some were other artifacts. And I'm not sure if everyone was around when Jim came and said, hey, look, I think I found a cheaper way of doing some of this, and was able to find some help in the townhouse and preserve some of the documents without going through a formal archivist. So Jim is here to give us an update as to where he is on the current project and what else has been found. Is that right, Jim?
Thanks, Andrew. When I became town clerk in 2015, like 6 years ago, yikes. I just continued the process they had before and had an estimate by the same vendor they'd used in the past. And honestly, I was as green as grass and I thought everything was wonderful. And then I started looking at, after this was approved, roughly 64,000 was approved. I started looking at the documents the vendor had given us, including the microfilm of the documents. And so why are the documents being microfilmed? Well, because people said it was the state law. Well, microfilm's actually considered the best archiving, but I'm old enough that I used microfilm in college doing research and stuff like that. And I called the vendor and said, all right, well, how do I test your microfilm? How do I know it's done right? And they told me I can bring it up to Vermont to check it. Well, that doesn't do much to me any good. And I could tell you 100 stories like that. And they didn't even, when they microfilmed the stuff in the past, they didn't even take the time to make a PDF version of all the documents, which is lunacy. And it would have been like a penny a page. And anyway, it's very frustrating. So we had sent a small portion of this, roughly 14,000 of the 64 we'd spent with that vendor when I put the stop on everything. And I came back and talked to your board and said, look, this doesn't make sense. We shouldn't just be hitting the staples button to do this. And we found a way to split this up with a bunch of different vendors and then bring some of this in-house, using senior tax write-off people to do pieces of the work and some of the storage and stuff ourselves. I got rid of the microfilm because it doesn't do me any good to have something microfilm that I can't use. So anyway, the gist of it is everything was going great until COVID hit, and then I couldn't have my seniors come in here and couldn't get them in the townhouse. So we've backed we're at the point now where we're done most of what we can do inside. We have just under $24,000 left in the account. And we have one item left that's going up on Monday for a review. My guess is it's going to cost around $10,000, $11,000. That leaves us that'll complete everything we have in the budget if it comes in on time. So we will have completed everything we wanted to do and save the town somewhere around $10,000. All right. What I'd like to do with that remaining roughly $10,000 are a couple of things. Number one, I was fortunate enough to come across a graduate student at Simmons University who is done time as an archivist with the state of California, 3 or 4 years out there. And he's been in here on a volunteer basis, helping us go through the documents and look at things that we haven't archived yet on page by page through documents. And I'd like to use some of that money to bring him on board 3 hours a week through roughly the end of the fiscal year at say $22.50 an hour. That would be roughly $1,000. And one of the things I'd like him to be able to do by going through these documents, look, I don't have the time and I don't have the expertise to do this. We just don't have the time. You know, we've had, we're short-staffed here. We had somebody leave, we're, filling that job. But for $1,000, it makes sense for someone to go through and find the kind of things that he found. For example, a document from really kind of a cool document from June 27, 1783, an original document signed by both John Hancock and Sam Adams, refunding.
Jen, can you let me present? Because I have a picture of it. I can.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
How do I do it? Should promote me? Why am I muted?
Jen, you're muted too.
Sorry. Yes, I just made it so you can, Andrew. There you go.
That's really cool.
Yeah, for a document that is 200 roughly 30 years old. It's an awfully good shape, huh? And isn't it ironic that one of these original documents would be about, that's actually allowing Southwood to be credited 642 pounds, 7 shillings and 6 pence about state taxes. That is a really cool document. But so let me ask you a question. You folks are all involved in historical things. I think Andrew might have given you the answer, but here's a trivia question for you. Southborough was part of Marlborough until 1727. Does anybody know the reason why Southborough split from Marlborough?
Probably religion.
I do.
You do? Okay, go ahead, Freddie. Is Freddie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't anyone else?
Nope.
They had to go to church all the time and it took a long time to walk.
That's exactly it. And I had to go back and look at the original document from 1727, where I think it was 50 free men in Southborough sent a letter to the Marlborough folks, essentially saying it was too long a commute to go to church on Sunday for the women folk and wee ones. And that's why Southborough split off. As simple as that. It was too long a drive. And
Too long a walk.
too long a walk. Yeah, yeah. And it's amazing to see that original document. And that's one of the other things we came across in this pile of stuff. So anyway, we sent those up to a wonderful organization called the New England Document Conservation Center up in North Andover. They're just marvelous custodians and conservators. They do things for the Smithsonian. And they gave me an estimate of just under $12,000 to repair and restore documents, including the one you just saw there and these other things from 1727. So of the remaining $24,000, I'd like to use it for one aspect of the project that hadn't been done, and then to repair and restore these documents, and then $1,000 for this archivist to continue to go through and find things and move on to that. We have things beyond this that I might come back to you with at a later time. Like I already have an estimate. I don't have the money for it now, but I already have an estimate for $4,400. We have some records from the 1700s, and we get requests all the time. I had a request yesterday for somebody, a lady looking for a marriage certificate from a marriage document for some relative from 1730 something. And I have these books that have been quote unquote preserved, but the cursive ink, the ink was written in cursive is faded so much it's unreadable. But there are techniques that can be used by the conservation group to restore those. And that's something, I don't know. I don't have the money now. Maybe too late to come to this year, but that's something I'll come to you next year or perhaps just to test some of those things, see if we can restore them and go from there. But anyway, in the meantime, with the $23,817.66 we have available, I'd like to send roughly $11,000 to finish off one of the items that isn't done. Use roughly $12,000 to repair these documents, these original documents, 1700s, and then about $1,000 to have this archivist come in and look through everything else, try to identify exactly what we need to do and what should go forward.
You're muted, Andrew.
Sorry. So in this case, and I know we just talked about scope creep a little bit with a different project. This is all still within. I mean, these aren't new documents. These are everything that's already been in the basement that we've been chipping away at the entire time, right?
Yes.
So, and the original project was to go after the documents that are in that basement vault security area and chip away at it and kind of keep going. Personally, I think, I'd be fine with you continuing. I appreciate you coming forward and telling us that, hey, here's a case where you were able to save, thousands of dollars of the town and make good use of the savings, and coming forth and saying, hey, can I continue with the same level of effort against the town records that we've had for hundreds of years. That's my feeling, but I'll open it up to others.
This does not appear to be scope creep. Looks good. I agree with you, Andrew. That's a very cool document, by the way.
Ben?
Yeah, no, I agree. Sounds good.
And Ben?
I think it's a great project. I'm happy to learn a little bit more about it tonight and excited to see the rest of it progress.
Yeah, it sounds great. Thank you very much for coming in and giving us the update on what's been going on.
Yeah. So, Jim, the only thing to kind of keep in the back of your head while you're doing this is how you can put a little sticker on the outside of the plastic or something that says help preserved by the CPC or something like that, like have been on the books before. Just trying to keep the branding of what the CPC has been able to fund as we go forward would be very helpful. And I hate to, like, when we're all done, we ask that question, you're like, oh shoot, we forgot, we got to go through that all again.
We've done that for all the documents we've had in the past, and these documents on the binders and such, where these are individual documents, one of the things I've asked them to do is to give us high resolution photographs that we could post, and we can put that on with it as well. And I'd like to give a tip of the hat to a Southborough resident, a fellow named Dick Tranfalia, who's a very, very talented amateur photographer. And Dick was kind enough to come in and spend a good part of the day photographing some of these documents, including the picture that I sent up to you. So it's very kind of him to do that. So anyway, my objective at the end of the day is to have these documents in such a way that we can put them up for everyone to see and examine them. It's great to restore these things, but it's not so great just to leave them in the back room here.
Yeah, no, that's great.
We can make that work, and I'll see what happens if we get lucky and some money left. Maybe we can take care of the faded documents. If not, I'll come back here next year and see what we can do. And it's too bad this fellow, you couldn't see this kid today. This is it actually sent an email blast when he was in California. He's from California, to all the city and town clerks in Massachusetts, wanting to know about opportunities to participate. And I was just fortunate enough to be sitting in front of my computer when it came up, and I jumped all over the piece, and I was the first one in line. And Northborough called him later, but I had already taken the kid to lunch, so it's too late. He went to bed. So I don't know.
Money well spent.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, this is a very, very, very sharp young man. And like I say, he did this. I had to look up the word accessioning. Now, maybe you as an attorney know what that is, Mark, but I did not know that. One of the things that he did is
you stumped me. Accessioning?
It's almost like looking at the provenance of a document and the lineage of it or historical whatever. But this guy has some very good hands-on stuff. He also volunteers with the North Andover Historical Society. He's doing some work with the National Park Service. tracking in old cemeteries and gravestones and stuff. And I'm not quite sure when he sleeps, but we're lucky to have him.
No, that's great.
That is great. Good find.
Yeah, I got lucky. Got lucky.
All right.
So,
Well, thank you,
So-
Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Always great
Thank
to
you all
see
very
you.
much. All right, have a good night. Bye
Yeah,
now.
you too. Thank you.
Right.
All right, Jen, we're back to you.
All right. I will pull this up again. Here. All right. Yeah. So to kind of bring it back, looking to see like what are our options, what could we do? And then also that like obviously the Recreation Commission's also willing to figure out what can we do, what can we fund, or where could we potentially find some more funds to help cover some of this. But I mean, this is a huge chunk for us to take care of all by ourselves even. So
I think you gotta, I think you gotta think about perhaps approaching baseball and see if they can help out a little bit. I mean, the Mooney Field lights are principally there for baseball. We all support that. This was unforeseen. You know, they're the major beneficiaries of it. I'm not saying they
Yeah.
should foot the bill, but
So I will say, baseball spends a lot of their own funds in the fields and the upkeep and like compared to any other sport or group in town, they spend a lot. So
very true.
yeah, I'm a little bit worried about going to them to ask for this because I feel like they do invest already above and beyond what's expected of them.
Are there revolving funds from the rec budget available?
So there could be some, I think, yeah, so there's like rules around how we can use those funds and what we can use them on. I think the challenge is like, I mean, we could, yes, the Mooney lighting, the $3,000 there, we could cover that. The 20 grand for the Richardson tennis lights is a lot for us to take out of revolving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think to summarize what we said before, like I think if you can reach out to Stuart Saginaw at the coalition on how, you know, what options are there to help close this out from a CPC standpoint, and what other towns have done if, you know, the CPC can't do it, you know, what suggestions might be. And then at our next meeting, you know, we can, or even before that, maybe Freddie, if we can type it up and get it to everyone to say, FYI, this is what I found out. Before.
Can I ask a question? Are these bills currently owed right away?
I mean, so no, we actually, so when we ran into this challenge with Mooneyfield with the pole cost that we didn't know about, we actually asked Island Lighting for their bill. We wanted to see it now, the total. So their work is not complete, so that bill is not technically into us. We just asked for it ahead of time so we'd know, so that we could bring this and have this conversation. So
But have we stopped work? Have they stopped work?
no, they haven't. So they were on hiatus for a couple months while we couldn't get them on site. They had a lot of problems themselves with staffing and tons of turnover. They were back on site, I believe, this week though, to finish the job. So
I will say that's a common occurrence. We run into it with the Open Space Commission, so
Yep.
it's not unique to that company. It's a COVID situation, I think.
Yep.
Because I just had a
Well,
question because the invoice I had gotten, Tim had said he was holding back some of it. So you already, that was what he knew was coming due, but hasn't been quite
probably,
billed
yes.
yet. Okay.
Yes.
So I can contact the coalition, but it sounds like if the bills aren't due yet, the December 2nd meeting would be timely enough for the committee to vote on any monies that we find we could use, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise
I
you'd
mean,
have-
like, I don't think we
otherwise-
have a choice, right?
You'd have to have a
We don't
call.
have enough information to actually vote tonight, so.
There's no place to take it from. But you could, if it wasn't, you could ask the committee to have a special meeting just to vote if there was something. But you want to find out one way or the other so you can start looking for other way to fund it, right?
Do we think a new application would have to be submitted? That seems,
Depends on. What I'm looking at is there's no money to cover this. Some of it might be able to be taken out of, maybe the only place for money to fund this would be out of your your admin funds, but you don't have a lot of money there. You're paying this,
Yeah.
you're paying
Well,
me and
I
you're
mean,
paying
so-
Betsy.
I think the question is like, well, we'd want to know like what's possible or what ideas we could get from, is it the coalition that could give us
Yep.
advice? And then maybe even understanding like what is the balance of our admin funds?
Yeah, you can do that, but the other thing is, I will ask them to be as creative as possible.
Mhm.
So, looking where, and the other question is, even if you can use an application and repay somebody who paid it up front.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's,
again, Freddie, I think once you get the answers from.
send them out
Stuart,
right away. Yeah,
Yeah, send it out right away to everyone and just say, hey, this is what I found out.
yep.
After you do that, there can't be any discussion. If someone feels that like, okay, I mean, who knows what gets found out? Jen, if you feel that like, hey, we need to have a meeting right away, call me, email me, whatever.
Yeah.
And we can do
Yeah,
that.
but also even like when you have that, I could also bring it back to the rec commission too, to share back, so that we
Exactly.
can also have pre-conversations around like, well, how much do we think we could, it would be amazing if like CPC could cover half, at least, and then rec figure out how to cover the other half or something like that. It's kind of too much for rec to handle all by themselves. So that's
Yeah,
what we're looking to see. What are our options there?
And if there's money that the town is going to have to pay, we want to get it on their radar as soon as
Yes.
possible.
Yep.
From capital.
Yep.
I hear these rumors that we're getting showered with funds because of COVID or something. So, the sooner you can get in front of them as well and say, hey, yeah, we've already reached out to CPC and this is what can happen, the
Yep.
better. Before all that money gets sucked up to, somewhere. Okay.
Cool. All right.
Any other questions on this one? All right. So that took care of Mooney Field, Neary Lights, Colander Field, the Neary. So the basketball court. Any update on the basketball court, Jen? Do you know if they put the dirt around the edges?
Oh, actually, I do not know about the landscaping part. I haven't, I feel like with all of our fifth graders in quarantine this week, I haven't left the house either. So I haven't even driven by to see. But I can get an answer and email you guys on that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions on for recreation? Jen, great update. Appreciate it. I know it's a difficult message, but the sooner we know about it, the better, and we can work together to figure out how to resolve it.
Well, I mean, the first one was a good one, right? We're saving 150 grand.
Yeah, that's a
Don't
good
forget
one.
that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at it this way, the sooner that money gets given back,
That's right.
we can use it for something.
I like it.
But I don't know if the lighting people will hold off for a year and a half to get it.
Yeah, probably not.
All right. So the next Open Space Preservation Commission. Freddie, I think you were going to field this one, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is this the open projects
Yes.
golf course first? So,
No. Oh, yeah. Invasive
invasives. It's at the golf course and at
Halloran.
Halloran property, and I think you should all be somewhat familiar. We are moving forward at the golf course. We did another, it was originally planned to be like a 4-year project anyhow. The golf course, 3 years to treat the knotweed, and then another year afterwards for planting. The knotweed treatment we're in our 2nd year, but last year you wanted to go, there was another area of knotweed to start. So we had the first treatment this year. So that's like year 1 out of 4. Other areas are year 2 out of 4. And the property of the Halloran, we haven't started because we're still working on getting access, and we're hoping we're moving in the positive direction through DOT. Selectman Stivers is working with the Open Space Commission and Conservation. We're all, partnering together to help to get that access through Parkerville Road. You'd have to see a GIS map. Maybe I'll show it to you someday, but there's basically we got the property so affordable because there was no access to it. You've been there, right, Ben? So that will keep it moving on longer term. And if we can't get the access pretty soon, we'll have to come in with, there's another way to get there, but it's just not, it's like, you feel like you're walking on someone's front lawn. It's actually town-owned land, but it's a narrow path up someone's, next to their driveway up the front yard. So we prefer not to do that. So that's that one. And the other one is Breakneck Hill. And we started working a lot on that last year. And we hope to finish that out this winter and next summer. So that one, the Breakneck Hill one will be done, and we're moving along steadily with the other golf course one.
Freddie, just so I'm clear, I think the Breakneck Hill one, that's been out there for a while, correct?
Yeah, that started. And after we got the funding, we found out that the actual cost of the work was going to be like double what we put in for, because the condition of the land that we were looking at was worse than originally anticipated. There were cows on it at the time we started looking at the funding. So what happened is the stewardship committee, working with their conservation agent, was applying for, there was a state funding to get $50,000, and it needed a match. So we were applying for that grant, hoping to get the big, be able to do way more than we could with this grant alone. I talked to you guys about that. And we found out last year, January, that we didn't get it, the funding. So we started work on the project right after we got that notification. But like everything else, it's hard to get people there. We couldn't finish it up over the winter.
So knowing that the original funds, and like you said, there's a lot more work. Do you feel that what the original project was scoped to be, it's going to be able to get completed, or is it going to be half, or?
We will complete the whole original project.
Okay.
What happened was, like, one of the things that came up, which wasn't identified in the original project, but we could have used the state funding to do. That makes sense. Would have given us more. All the apple trees are dead and dying.
Yeah.
And there's habitat improvement. And the way the grant was written was to improve the habitat improvement. So we actually found someone who could help us prune some of those trees, and he's affordable. So, and at the same time, we do have a little bit more funding from another resource that will go there. So that happened to come into play right when we lost the funding for what we anticipated, the $50,000, or maybe anticipated is the wrong word when you're talking about a grant, but we had high hopes. We had many people from Natural Heritage and Massachusetts Fish and Wildlife and the feds all in favor of the project. So why we didn't get funded was just because we don't allow hunting on the property, and it was a hunting, got high points for allowing hunting, I guess, and that's why we didn't get funded.
You couldn't hunt for truffles?
No, Bambi.
Like, hunting for truffles is just as exciting,
Yeah, I guess.
or
They didn't give us any
salamanders.
points for that. So believe me, we tried for all the points we could get,
All
Plus,
right.
it was a very intense, it was a very intense grant process.
And Freddie,
Highly competitive.
and I ask only too, because like similar, like if we are gonna be behind on some funding or something, again, just good to know ahead of time. And it kind of stuck out.
Behind.
Well,
We won't be,
short.
that won't be short to finish the project. No.
Okay, all right. That's great.
I'm confident we can complete the, one thing that happens with invasive species, there's always more,
Mm,
sort of
Yeah.
like taxes. You can count on it.
And mice.
So
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
I will say, sort of related, but not on this project. If you haven't been to Breakneck Hill lately, go take a walk there. The trails are in really good condition, and we've been doing really wonderful work on habitat improvement for, and it's been noted regionally and statewide what we've accomplished there with at-risk species of pollinators and declining species of birds. We also have kestrels there now that got a lot of the wildlife people really excited, nesting bobolinks, which are declining globally. It's pretty exciting. And this year we had 4 grad students doing research projects there with Dr. Robert G. Gear, that eventually this will be part of some published research, and we're doing really, helping out a lot. So something to be proud of for the whole town, not necessarily direct, well, it's a side effect of the funding that the CPC has provided, keeping the grounds in better condition. So thank you.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. If we're all set, I'll move on to the next item, the budget for fiscal year 23. Everyone good with that? It's gonna be a fast one. I asked, it's on me. I have to review it with Freddie. And there's a couple of follow-up items we still need from the coalition on what the match might be. So we're gonna table that to next month. So everyone good with that?
Sounds good.
Yep.
So timeline for annual town meeting. Jen, can you make it so I can present again?
I got it right here for you.
Oh, yeah, oh, perfect. So Freddie was kind enough to send us out, as you all know. Actually, I'm glad the town is, or this was, yeah, I'm glad they put this together, because I feel like it's a mad scramble. And we're always at next meeting, like, what are we supposed to have, and push things through. So reports. Let's see. So initial meeting with Board of Selectmen, November 2nd, budget, capital monies, warrant articles submitted to the Selectmen's office.
Can I just say this was geared towards departments and commissions who have budgets? It was
Yeah.
sent to me for the Open Space Commission. So really the only one that, the first one that relates to the to the CPC, the annual town report, December 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I think Freddie, if we can just tell them that the regular placeholders that we're gonna have at least.
The warrant closes on the 21st. And for that, we need placeholders, which just means usually telling them what articles we're going to have. Although this year it's going to be much easier. We're sort of getting time to breathe, and you're going to be able to start working on cleaning up all these outstanding accounts and do better, maybe some, I shouldn't say better, some more in-depth planning. All we're going to have, if you approve, the only project will be the Open Space Preservation Commission one. And aside from that, it's going to be paying the bonds for the library, Burnett House, and the townhouse, and creating our regular budget. So we always create the budget, and the bonds are pretty much a standard payment. And it's just figuring out which buckets. And that's something Andrew and I are going to be working on before the next meeting. So you, by your December 2nd meeting, you should know pretty much everything to submit by the 7th.
Okay.
It's,
Everyone
it's
comfortable with that?
the easiest one you've had in years,
Yep.
decades, maybe.
Any other questions on this one, you guys?
No.
All right. Next item is the fiscal year 23 CPA application. So I think Freddie, that one's yours again.
That's mine again. And we're going to do a full, it's not ideal, but we have to get in front of other committees and commissions and finalize. Instead of giving it piecemeal tonight, I'm just going to do a whole complete project presentation to you on the 2nd, and you can say yay or nay, but it won't be, hopefully you won't be saying come back for this, or if it is, it's something little. We're asking to get support from the Open Space Commission, the library trustees, the Recreation Commission, as well as putting a lot of, we're working with DPW as well. So it's got a lot of little pieces for a small project, but it's a collaborative project. So December 2nd, you already sort of know what it's about because you you supplied funding to do some of the background work, which has been really helpful.
Great. All right. Any questions?
My only thought is if there's anything you can send us ahead of time to pre-read, we could also potentially we could send back individually questions, Freddie, so that you know what we're going to ask, so that we could maybe make it all happen in one night.
Sure, I would like to do that.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Next item is chairman's report. So if Jen, I am going to need to share something.
Yeah, I think you can share. You have permission.
Oh. Let me find what I need to share. Somewhere. Aha. So as we were talking about last time with John Parent, the townhouse MOU, we sent the updated one over. He sent it over to town council. There were just a couple little changes he wanted to make. I wanted you guys to see it before I sign this. I didn't think that they were substantial, but so he basically highlighted in reference to the town's approval of the warrant article 20 presented at Southborough town meeting, blah, blah, blah. So he's got a little bit more clarity there.
Yellow is what we inserted after your vote last meeting. So I just kept it in yellow so you could find it. And he added that red piece in front of it.
Yeah, so the town meetings vote under said warrant article. So, and I think that was it. That was the only thing he clarified. Otherwise, he was good with it. Is everyone comfortable with that?
I am.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Excellent. So I will sign that, get that over to Mr. Parent, and then he'll be good to go. So that was one item. The other item that I wanted to discuss was the our staff and support. As you know, we voted, I think it was last year, to continue Betsy and Freddie. And it was unanimous in the same manner that we've been continuing. No adjustment in hours or anything like that, but to follow the same contract that we had in the past. It's that time of year again where the town has said, hey, the contract that you had before was labeled for a certain year periods. So it looks like, technically, we put fiscal years around the contract in the past. I'm gonna, if everyone's comfortable with it, I'm gonna be a little bit more vague and not put years around it, but just the activities, say Freddie and Betsy are working on, so that we don't have to update the contract every year, but we can just say, we can vote to extend the existing contract in the same manner and go forward with that if everyone's comfortable with that. And then we don't have to fill out a new contract every year. Does that make sense?
Does the contract have the pay rate? So like if we wanted to give them, raises or, increase their pay, would they have to sign a new contract?
Yes,
Okay.
we would. But that would be easier if it's just one thing instead of writing up like, okay, what are we gonna do this year? I'm gonna work with Freddie on, there are some other things we didn't have in the contract, like the CP3 form that gets done every year. That's what I think most people have been sheltered from that. It's where every year to actually get the reimbursement or to get the match from the state, we have to go and say, hey, this is what we've done. We funded for projects this year. This is what we've done. Put everything into their database so that the state has a list of every project that's been funded. But that's a requirement. So that, and it's always a stressful point to do that, because you start getting these nagging emails like, hey, you're in danger of not getting your town's funding if you don't fill this out, which I know I've lost sleep over many times, wondering did it actually go through, and I call the coalition and say, did it go through? So stuff like that. But if everyone's comfortable with that, I think technically we need a vote to approve the continuation of both Betsy and Freddie in the capacity we've been using them for the last couple of years, and to or allow me to adjust the contract to not be year specific for the activities that they're doing, so we don't have to redo it each year. That makes sense? So is there?
My only concern is that, for next year, like the cost of living adjustment is almost 6%, which is pretty substantial. So if we don't update the contract, that means they're essentially getting paid less as the years go on. And I don't feel right about that. But I mean, in theory, I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure the compensation is fair.
Okay. So Anne, are you suggesting that we include a adjustment in the pay currently?
Yeah, I mean, maybe whatever they do for the town employees, if you set it at a certain percent.
Okay. I don't know what that is, so I assume it's less
So
than,
I believe like town employees, the ones that are on like full salary and benefits are eligible for that, but like part-timers, that doesn't happen.
Mm,
Just like we pay a lot of part-time or at a rec, and that does not happen. Just
Okay.
for context.
good to know.
Hey, Andrew, refresh my memory. Is it a contract that states they're gonna be paid X, but not to exceed Y?
just a moment.
I don't mean to overly complicate this, but
Oh, no, it's no problem.
my memory is it's an hourly rate, but it, not to exceed a certain amount. I think it was at one time anyway.
I think it was a number of hours, right? 20 hours a month.
Right,
Was,
no more
Fred.
than 20 hours a month unless additional hours are approved by the CPC. And that's specifically for Freddie's contract. Betsy, to be honest, on Betsy's side, to get her to fill out a payable or make an invoice for us is like pulling teeth. She's very kind in what she does. And you know, and I think she doesn't even bill us for all the hours, so.
But if there's ever an issue and we have to, and Freddie needs to work more than 20 hours a week, I mean, we can get that out of administrative funds if we approve it, correct? We don't have, no one's looking over our shoulder.
Right.
That's it.
I mean, I think, you know, it might be even more beneficial to say 25 hours a month. Unless otherwise approved, because there was fluctuations before. The reason why we put that in, and I don't remember if everyone was part of this when we did this originally. Because when it comes time for town meeting and getting some of the plans together, there's a lot more months. Like in the summer months, it's not as, might not be as much work, but when it gets to, you know, this time of year and writing the warrant articles, is a lot more.
I'd be fine with that change, by the way.
25 hours.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we do need a motion, because I'm gonna, Carla wanted to see the meeting minute notes that what got approved, what we voted on. So it sounds like I need a motion for we increase the contract hours for Freddie up to 25 hours a month, unless otherwise approved by the CPC. And that we continue the contract hourly rate, and that Andrew will update the contract.
Reflect this
so-
load.
correct.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Any discussion?
I have one clarification. So you're saying, so we're gonna write this contract in such a way that we don't have to write a new contract every year, but will like whoever's on the commission next year come back and revisit whether or not like they want to like re-up or,
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay,
we'll
all
still have to vote every year.
gotcha, okay, yep,
The point is that we just have to vote each year.
just not
and
write
we
new
can send the
contract.
meeting minutes,
Okay.
and we don't have to do a new contract every year.
Okay, yep.
Good
Thanks.
question, Jen.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on that.
No,
That's what I was. Okay. I'll go down to how I see people on my screen. Mark,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ann,
yes.
Jen,
Yes,
and Andrew is a yes, so that's unanimous. So then, we also need a contract for Betsy. So, same thing, actually, we never even had a contract for Betsy. And I was asking Carla, I was like, how can you say that? She's been our note taker since I started with the CPC, which was over almost 12 years ago. And she's like, well, there's no contract. You need a contract. I'm like, okay, well, we'll make one. I mean, again, she does notes and admin, filing and everything, so it won't be that complicated. But if everyone's in agreement that I go forward and write that contract, to continue Betsy as our admin for filing and note taking, and other light admin funds or admin activities. I will do that.
I so move to continue to retain her along those lines.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, I'm gonna do it in reverse order. Jen,
yes,
Ann,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and Andrew's a yes. All righty. Let's see. So next item I had minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes? Any adjustments?
nope,
Mark, since you got them right there, you want to make a motion?
I move to accept the minutes as submitted.
Of what month and day?
You're gonna make me scroll back to the top, huh? Okay. It is.
Well, I called on you. You had it in front of you.
I do. I'm a two-computer guy tonight. Long minutes. It's for the meeting September 9th, 2021.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Jen,
Yep.
Ann,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Andrew is a yes. All right. I don't think we had any other minutes, did we, Freddie? I think that was it.
No,
No.
Betsy's, working on them, and you'll have them for next month, both sets. Okay. Did I already say that she was home from the hospital and recovering well?
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
So the plan for the next annual outreach presentation, I think we're gonna wait until after the next town meeting for that, correct? So I think that's just a placeholder, right, Freddie?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm maybe left it in there by mistake.
Oh, that's no problem. And then the MOU Trails Committee, send approval.
So
edit.
we needed to approve the minutes you just approved, I believe, that had the adjustments for that MOU. And now that it's approved, we can write it up and have it sent back to them to sign.
Great.
Just a little formality, but until the minutes were approved, it wasn't really a formal approval of the changes you made when
So
Trails
do
came.
I have to wait then for the one for John Parent too until we approve the minutes, or can I just sign that one because we just voted on?
You just voted on, yeah.
So I've
wasn't
always been
substantive.
instructed that you can use them as draft minutes, and that's good enough.
Okay, good,
I do that for everything for rec as draft minutes, and they accept them.
excellent.
I think we were concerned because I think the Trails was a little more substantial, and we wanted to be sure we got it right with you guys looking at it.
All right,
So
and then the historical one, I can sign that one. And then there's only one other motion I'm waiting to hear.
Motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
All right, Mark,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Ann?
Yes.
And Andrew is a yes. Before we actually close out, Freddie, thank you for everything. You make
you,
it so that
Freddie.
this is a very efficient meeting. And it's not like a planning board, so I'm very thankful for that.
Be okay to hear your dog once in a while, though.
Oh,
he passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
I'm
that.
so sorry, Freddie.
Yeah, it was devastating, but
Oh,
yeah,
Oh,
there was a reason he was, but he was, such a young boy. So it made it really sad. He was 15
what a great life.
that's-
and it was hard. If I can, did you adjourn? So I can tell you this. It was a hard year because I lost two. Maisie was 17 and she passed away a few months before Harley. And Harley she was a little Maltese mix, and he was a big Aussie, and they were both rescued. I call them death row babies because they were both, very shortly away from getting the shot. So,
Wow.
yeah. And it was just great joy to have them. Just so hard as everyone who's had a pet knows, it's just, I
Sorry
still
to
see
hear.
him around the corner, so he misses you guys too, I guess.
Well, thank you, Freddie. Much
Yeah.
appreciated. And thanks
you.
for everyone for joining. We made a quorum by the hair of the hair of my screen, I guess.
All right. Take care,
Good
guys.
night,
Thanks,
guys.
Jen.
Good night, everybody.